Welcome to Garbage Guys, the Scape. This is Steisel. Today's unit is one beloved by people who like to build ranged pod armies and tolerated by map makers. That's right, we're talking about Raelin the Kyrie warrior, the OG, the original, the good one. Arguably the best unit in the game. Now you look at the card and that might surprise you at first because the synergy isn't amazing. Unique hero, merciful Kyrie warrior, nothing super impressive there. Just a +1 move from Atlaga. The stats are also solid, but not amazing. 6 move, 1 range, 3 attack, 3 defense, 5 life. Flying helps a little bit with that, but not a whole ton. So why is she considered one of the best? Well, it's all about the defense, baby. Now, just like the US government, she's very interested in making sure that you have as much defense as you can possibly get. Unlike the US government, she wants to make sure you can get that for a very small investment. Just like the American government, it'll cost you a bit of a pretty penny to get that results, but it is worth it. +2 defense is very good as an ability. As an example, it boosts a figure with 3 defense from defending about half the time to defending about 2/3 of the time against an average attack of 3. Now, this ability has led to her being banned from tournaments and home metas with the same sort of ferocity that the TSA goes after peanut butter and bottled water. No, not that TSA. She's the primary example of a unit archetype known as a cheerleader. These are units that give passive boosts to your army. And her sitting up on a hilltop getting, and you get +2 defense, and you get +2 defense, and you get +2 defense is a prime example of a cheerleader ability. Now, people tend to be pretty chill with cheerleaders when they're like Buffy or Kim Possible, and they're helping out the little guys. People tend to not be as concerned when she's helping out Ashigaru in their 1 defense, or making it so guerrilla leaders can actually block something. However, when she starts to go a little bit more Regina George and sets up a pecking order from the top of her throne of shields, people start to have some issues. When she's helping out things like the British invasion, Mar attacks, Bender's buff cousin, the King of Ice, or the reason why Valhalla needs an exterminator, people tend to think, maybe the cheer squad needs a little bit less attention. Her prevalence and easy-to-use abilities have got some players that call her easy mode. Now, I'm someone who lost to 12 Mario Kart computers on more than one occasion. I have some opinions on what makes something easy mode. Of course, this isn't to say that you can't win with Raelin if you play her badly. An extra 2 defense is an extra 2 defense. But there is some subtle things about playing her that are going to separate your play from less optimal to fully optimal. Now, first is going to come when you're building the army. Now, she was given the moniker of Bacon as she goes with everything. Now, maybe I'm a picky eater, but I wouldn't want to put bacon with cereal or a smoothie. And just like that, I don't want to put Raelin with everything. She works best with like ranged units, but a melee squad that has a ranged bonder like Chasers or Romans bonding with Mberxa is also a good option to pair with Raelin. Now, you can do it with like primarily melee units, but if they're going to want to be all over the map, it's going to be pretty hard to stay in that aura. And if you're playing something like Cutters, who actively want to die, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot with your army construction. So really the big thing about playing with and against Raelin is that if you are playing with her, you want the battle to happen in the aura, and if you're playing out against her, you want it to happen outside of the aura. If you are playing Raelin and you have the range advantage over your opponent, longer range than them, you can set up in a fairly safe space with Raelin and start shooting down at your opponent. Sometimes that space is even just going to be in your start zone, and you just protect some nearby area outside of the start zone. If you don't have that range advantage, you might need to be more aggressive and place her towards the middle of the field. If your opponent goes after her, that's fine because they're not attacking your dudes. And if they go after your guys, they get the Raelin boost. So keep that in mind. The big thing is you want to make sure that you don't put more than 1 order marker on her before the end game. If you do, you're just kind of sacrificing development. Now, the best kind of spots for Raelin are going to be things like she wants height, she wants jungle, she wants shadow, places where melee can only get a couple of attacks up on her, places where range can only get a couple of attacks on her, so there's like a blocker in the way because her wings can't be hit. Now, if you place her in a spot where she can get a lot of attacks down, you might be surprised at how fast she dies, so be careful not to put her in a vulnerable spot. Attacks of 4 into 5 are similar in expected results to attacks of 3 into 3. And if you are fighting against her, take advantage if your opponent puts her in a vulnerable spot or puts her in a spot where you can pull the figures out of the range of her aura. Now, you might not get that. You might have to fight in her aura. So the question becomes, do you try and go for Raelin, or do you try and go for the things that are attacking you? And the answer is, well, it depends. How fast can you kill Raelin is the big factor. Now, it's very hard to kill her quickly. Some things can do it, like Cyprian's auto wounds freezing her to death, or destruction powers like Sudama turning her to a statue, Braxis melting her, or, a Grimnack snack attack. Now, those all rely on d20s, and relying on a single d20 to win you the game is not a solid strategy. So really, you need to figure out, okay, can I kill her quickly with what I have, or does the game become much easier for me to win if she is dead? If so, it's probably a good idea to go after her. But once you go after her, you have to commit. If you do 4 wounds to her, but you can't do that last one, she'll just Claire Bennett her way back up and keep boosting the rest of the army. And if you aren't going to be able to do that very quickly, it might be better just to attack the things that are attacking you. And as you get better at this, you'll get a better idea of what's the best call on that. I think in general, it's probably better to focus on the things that are attacking you, but keep an eye open for any sort of key moments where you could just launch a bunch of attacks on Raelin and potentially kill her. And if it never comes, you just save her until endgame. She's actually pretty solid in the endgame if you are playing with or against her, so just keep that in mind. But, if you can kill her quickly, go for it. But if you can't, just focus on the rest of the stuff that you have around you. Ultimately, sometimes the best defense you can get is making sure that you get as much of the best defense as you can get.